Maybe we've been running through the pros and cons of flaking out of Easter dinner with your family. Or maybe I'm not really your therapist and you're just here to get my take on these Reddit Easter stories. Am I the a-hole for not going to my parents' Easter because my sister blackballed my husband? I've heard of blacklists and blue balls, but I have no idea what blackballed means. I am the oldest of 4 siblings. My only sister is the baby and 13 years younger than me. I'm 52, she is 39. We have never been close. In fact, I moved out when I was 18 and traveled a bit, so we never really got to know each other as adults. Every time I have tried to get to know her, she has wanted nothing to do with it. 2 years ago, she decided that she would not attend family functions if I was there. Ooh, that really makes it sound like there must be a lot more to that story. Since my kids are grown and hers are under 12, she takes precedent with my parents. However, this has divided the family tremendously, and my adult children have stopped going since I haven't been welcome. Every time I would text her asking her what I did to upset her, and she just ignores me. One morning about a year ago, I woke up to a message from her saying that she doesn't need to have a reason, she just doesn't want me around. Wow, if that's true and that happened the way OP is describing it, that is so hurtful and very strange. I don't think I've ever heard of somebody excluding a family member over random bad vibes. I got very upset and started crying, which I never do. This upset my husband, who sent her a very vulgar and nasty text telling her to quit hurting my feelings. Before this, my whole family, including my sister, adored my husband. My sister took the text to my elderly parents, said that she was now frightened of my husband and me, and told her kids to call 911 if they ever saw either one of us. Was there any kind of threat of violence in this text? Maybe I just keep giving OP's sister too much credit and expecting a rational thought process here. Last week, my brother, who I am very close to and currently has the youngest grandchild, told my parents that he was not attending any family functions that I was not welcome at. So a quick meeting was held with my sister, who told my parents that she is okay with me coming, but only if I do not bring my husband. It's starting to feel like maybe this is a control thing for the sister, and that is so ridiculous. She's the baby of this family. Maybe she's used to being able to get her parents to do whatever she wants and is literally just exercising that control. When my mother told me this, I said I absolutely will not attend without my sweet and wonderful husband, who they all despise now since the text. My mom got upset and said that this is a starting point to healing, and now the ball is finally in my court after all these years. Oh my gosh. Listen, I don't know if we're gonna see the text. Like, maybe there could be some level of aggression that would warrant some of this reaction, but the fact that OP's sister switched the target of her exclusion from OP to her husband, and the fact that OP's brother stepped in and said, I want my older sister there, it makes it feel like this sister is just stirring up problems and has the parents wrapped around her finger. I think that this was a strategic move by my sister because she knows that my husband and I have always had each other's backs no matter what. So now I am the bad guy for refusing to go. Without your husband? How is it a surprise that she's not gonna leave her husband alone for a holiday unless he's done something absolutely evil? That is a ridiculous expectation. Should I go for just a short time and bring lots of goodies for the kids? If I do go, am I the a-hole to my awesome husband, who has only ever tried to stand up for me to my bully sister? I feel like I can't win. There is so much dysfunction here, I can't fit in all the backstory, but I will answer any questions in the comments. Thanks in advance. If this OP is confident that her sister is being a bully, and if OP thinks it is likely that this is some kind of control thing with the sister, I do not think that she should go, because it feels like this is a power move and she doesn't want to play into her sister's hand. But it's possible that hearing more about the text would change my mind. Edit, I know there's a ton of backstory missing, but it kept exceeding the character limit. See my comments below for some history or just ask any questions. Also, the text was awful. It called her the C word and told her that she better stop hurting me. Also, it made a reference to some extramarital BJ action on her part, which is not true, but really upset her and my very conservative, sheltered parents. It was bad, I'm not gonna lie. Well, that is super weird to me that sweet, loving husband's defense of his wife would ever somehow land in fake BJ territory. It feels like it might reflect a little bit about the way the husband sees women or responds when he gets in conflict with them. Like when he's angry with a woman, he wants to go straight to calling them a cunt and a slut. He probably owes her some apology to be completely in the clear here. Something like, I shouldn't have talked to you like that. I let my anger get the better of me, even though I do still strongly dislike the way that you're treating my wife, and I think that that needs to change. Not the a-hole. Skip it. Maintain a good relationship with your husband, grown kids, and brother. Maintain as best you can with your parents. Something is wrong with sister, but since no one's going to tell you what it is, nor stand up for you, just avoid her, block her, and accept the fact that she isn't part of your life. OP said, this is excellent advice. I just needed to hear it from someone not involved. Thank you. I think it's important to demote your parents from the position of family angle point. Start your own traditions, invite who you want. Make Easter and Co. the dates where it's time to meet up with OP and her family. Forget about your sister, forget about your parents. Stop being in the outcast role. Step out of it and into your new family meetup host role. If your parents ever manage to get their heads out of their asses, they can come too. If not, their loss. You'll still have lovely family holidays with your brother, husband, and whoever else you love and loves you back. That is really good advice. You need to focus on the people who are treating you well, and sometimes it will tank your self-esteem so much to stay in that outcast role in a family like this. Agree with this. When you get married and have children, they are your family. The rest become extended family. Your parents made a choice. It's not like your sister was a child when this all went down. She was a fully grown adult. Your husband was defending you. Inappropriately, but yes, the sister has just been stirring shit this whole time. You have to decide which is more important, your marriage and your kids, or the people who are willing to drop you to keep someone else happy. I have a much younger sister that was toxic like this, and my mother's response was always, you are older and I expect you to understand that this just is the way things are going to be. Hard as it was to do, I walked away. We did our own holidays and invited my other sibling. My kids were all like, it's about time. Why put up with being treated like that? It took my dad dying and my mother being diagnosed with dementia to bring us to the same table. My family does their own thing, and if my sisters want to have a holiday meal, I don't bother rearranging our plans to accommodate them. I barely speak to this sister still. It's been 15 years since I gave up. According to my other sister, my toxic sis has been tortured because she could no longer manipulate our mom and to do things to get me pissed off. As a result, her husband left her and her kids are leaving one by one, and only one comes back to see her. Live your best life without the crazies. Your kids will thank you and your marriage will be stronger. Your brother already sees the situation as it is. Your parents will regret their decision and hopefully come around, but if not, you don't owe them anything. You are not at fault and you do not need to play into your sister's web. Sometimes leaving someone who is showing these kind of behaviors is the best thing you can do for yourself and kind of for them, because a person acting like this kind of needs to sit in the consequences of their action and recognize that they're pushing people away. And when you walk on eggshells around them like the parents are doing, it just prolongs the pain of that behavior, not the a-hole. You know what you should do. Get some goodies for all of the children. You and your husband go over there. Have your husband stay in the car. Get out, give out the goodies, and then say, okay, it was nice seeing you, and leave. Tell your brother the plan so he doesn't feel betrayed. When they ask, where are you going? You just got here, and dinner won't be served for a few hours. Say, oh, well, my husband is in the car, and we are going to have a wonderful evening. I just didn't want the kids to suffer because the adults can't agree. At that point, the ball is in their court. Either they invite him in and everyone gets along, or they let you leave and you know where you stand. Either way, you get to do both, and if they choose to let you leave, then you don't have to worry about them anymore if you don't want to. And hopefully your husband would be okay with this plan. OP said, OMG, this is spectacular. I am going to do exactly this. OP posted, quick update. I decided to go. Hubby had some work to do anyway. I arrived about 90 minutes after my sister, and I called when I was 5 minutes away to see if my parents needed me to bring anything. When she heard I was actually coming, she jumped up, gathered her family, and was walking out just as I arrived. She told the family that she was tired and needed a nap. My brother said it was obvious to everyone that she had counted on my loyalty to hubby and assumed I wouldn't show up. This was an eye-opener to a few people that day. My brother's wife, who had been completely neutral until now, went home and told my brother that my sister is trash and she will never question who's right or wrong in this situation again. My dad was really upset for about 30 minutes, then he relaxed and we all had a good time. My mom mom was, still, and always will be completely oblivious and acted like it was normal. But I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. Thank you all for your support. I don't think that mom can really not know or not see it. I think that she's just so far in denial. Facing her youngest daughter's behavior head on would require such a drastic change to the way she operates. She's just gonna keep sticking her head in the sand. But I hope this was the beginning of many wonderful gatherings for OP and the husband in the family. I stopped a ham thief on Easter. I used to work at a major retail store that often has a lot of other crazy stories come from it. You know the one I'm talking about. On Easter Sunday, I had to work the early shift at self-checkout. I'm already unhappy because I'm there on Easter Sunday instead of in church and with family. So this woman who looked well off, nice clothes, nice phone, stilettos on, came through with a few last-minute food items. Everything that is rang out through self-checkout shows up on a screen that we monitor. This bee scans a huge ham and it rang through the screen as a $5 Easter basket. Oh no, she isn't trying to pull this today. I go over there and I grab the ham from her bag and, putting on my sweetest face, tell her it didn't scan in right and that the ham was $48 and made sure to scan it through properly. The woman just looks appalled that I would call her out on it. So I returned to my post and kept a close eye on her. She tries the same scam again with a different item, and that's when I called security on her. As she's being escorted out, she calls me a bee and says that she was just trying to give her family a nice meal. I made sure to smile and wish her good luck with that story and happy Jesus Day. The audacity to go back in and try it again after you get called out the first time. Like that was your free do-over and you did the same thing again? Girl. You wonder how many times she's gotten away with this method in the past, and it finally caught up with her on your shift. Well done. Probably every Easter. My credit card was stolen once, and someone tried to use it to buy $350 worth of honey ham just a few days before Easter. Damn, these ham prices are through the roof, huh? I get it, the price of food is insane, and maybe you're already in a habit of shoplifting or tag switching, but let's not put retail workers through that, especially if you're not even actually struggling financially. I need some Easter comebacks to shut up my aunt. So this is literally so dumb, but I have been up all night dreading going to dinner with my family because of what has become a pretty prescient annoyance. So growing up, my family did egg hunts for me and my cousin. However, my cousin's mom and my aunt would always show up drunk and run around pointing out all my eggs before I could find them. Never her daughter's eggs, just mine. It happened every year, and as a kid, I obviously didn't know she was drunk. I just thought she was really mean. I would end up sobbing every Easter and eventually started not even wanting to go. I'd get upset and cry because, you know, I was a child, and she would make fun of me. One year, my mom said enough with the egg hunts because my aunt was always drunk. And for some reason, to this day, my aunt thinks I'm the one who told my mom she was drunk. Like it wasn't obvious. Again, I wasn't even old enough to understand what drunk meant. Now, every single Easter, she makes a big fuss about how I told everyone she got drunk every Easter and ruined the egg hunts and made a huge deal about it. It's just so annoying. I don't give a shit about egg hunts anymore. I'm 20 years old, but she won't shut up about it. I just want something to say back. I keep telling her off in my head, but I can't get it to sound right. Please give me some comebacks. I don't care if they are mean. I truly don't give a shit anymore. If you find yourself consuming alcohol in this way, where you need to have it before family gatherings and you kind of are mean to children when you're drunk, and it feels like an important secret that you need to guard, you might have a problem with alcohol. This poor OP, that is so awful. The aunt probably knows on some level that she ruined the egg hunts by doing something or being mean and just does not want to take accountability for that, so she needs to push it off onto OP. If you spent as much time staying sober as you do rewriting history, we might have had a decent Easter once. Girl, I was hunting eggs, you were hunting vodka. Let's not pretend this is some Scooby-Doo mystery. I didn't need to tell anyone you were drunk. You told them yourself. Loudly, slurring, every year. I wasn't tattling. I was a child trying to understand why the Easter Bunny was hammered and mean. You ruined Easter before I even knew what rum was. Don't flatter yourself into thinking I had that kind of power. You're mad a child couldn't cover for your drinking? That's cute. Get therapy. Imagine being beefed with a 20-year-old over a buzz you couldn't handle 10 years ago. Every year you act like I held a press conference about your drinking. Girl, you were sloshed in broad daylight. We saw you. If Easter egg hunts had a breathalyzer, you'd still be banned. You pointed out my eggs and I pointed out your problem. Call it even. It's wild how I was the child, but you were the one acting like one every Easter. Maybe instead of reliving my childhood egg hunt, you should unpack your adult drinking habit. I didn't ruin your reputation. You did that all on your own with help from a box of wine. If this is your Roman Empire, please seek help. Easter was 15 years ago and you're still drunk on drama. Just because I found eggs and you found wine doesn't mean I started anything. A couple good ones in there. My favorite was beefing with a 20-year-old over a buzz you couldn't handle 10 years ago. But this post has an update, so I think we're gonna get to hear what happened. Update. So I didn't expect my post to get nearly that much attention. I really appreciate everyone who took the time to comment and give advice. I read almost everything, but I couldn't get back to everyone. Before I get into what happened though, I thought I'd go over some of the questions from your comments that I saw. Yes, I could not go, but I don't really think that's fair for me to miss out on family activities because one person sucks. Plus, my father passed away a few years ago and my mom doesn't like attending alone. She has done so much for me, the least I can do is be there for her so she's not alone. And no one is gonna stop me from doing that. Plus, I'm there for the ham. My family has tried to stick up for her, my parents included. She makes a big stink about it and plays the victim. Plus, my mom just doesn't have the energy to deal with it anymore. I'm also an adult, and it's time I deal with her myself. Now to the update. She didn't say anything about the egg hunt this year, but it was for good reason because my other aunt found the post. Due to my lack of sleep, I didn't show up to dinner until right before it was time to eat. Apparently my aunt, not the a-hole one, listens to the show and joined this subreddit and found my post this morning. Listens to the show? I wonder what that means. Before I showed up, my family had a not so fun conversation with her about being the way she is. She didn't see any issues in anything she had been saying or doing, so my other aunt pulled out the comments. They read almost every one of them until she shut up. I, of course, didn't know about any of it and came ready with a plastic Easter egg filled with Fireball to give her when she said something. Or I was gonna hit her with a, "Oh yeah, it's Easter, shouldn't you be bullying children somewhere?" But my time never came. She did try to make a comment about how supposedly I tried to take my cousin's Easter basket home one year when I was a kid, but before I got the chance to react, my family jumped into action. They immediately started correcting her by saying that it was actually her kid that did that, and why does she always have to be so bitchy? Then she left and went home, and my other aunt filled me in on what happened. My family also apologized for letting it go on so long, saying they didn't know it was that bad. I know this isn't what everyone was expecting, but I hope you enjoyed it regardless. While I am glad that OP's family was able to recognize how problematic this behavior was, and that the aunt had to sit with the discomfort of the consequences of her own action. Like, when everyone can see how unreasonable and toxic someone is acting, it can really hold them accountable for their own behavior. The excellent Easter revenge. I have two younger sisters. My youngest sister was a sugar monster when she was little. She wasn't content with just eating the chocolates, sweets, honey, anything she was given. If you didn't eat yours immediately, you obviously didn't want it and it was hers by default. I was a child who liked saving my sweet things to enjoy over a few days, so this became a point of contention. But on to our story. One Easter, we were each given a lovely Cadbury egg. I broke mine into little pieces and placed it on my windowsill to enjoy over the next few days. That sounds like exactly how you get ants. Only when I came back a few hours later, my lovely egg was gone. I searched everywhere, but it was nowhere to be found. Of course, Sugar Monster had eaten it. Our mother gave out to her, but only a little bit, as she was 4. I was furious and cried because I wasn't going to get another egg. I stormed around the house and made my way to her room, which wasn't really her room because she slept in my bed and just kept her toys in her room. And there, sitting on the windowsill in the sun, was her chocolate egg. Satisfied, I ate that egg with all of the malice and vengefulness I could muster in my 11-year-old heart, satisfied that she would suffer. 20 minutes later, my other sister came in looking very dismayed. "Has anyone seen my egg? I left it in the window in Sugar Monster's room." My eyes went wide, but I kept my mouth shut. Stupid me should have known Sugar Monster would never leave her egg alone. Sugar Monster was obviously blamed for that disappearing egg as well, and received a much harsher punishment than before. I felt bad that my other sister had to suffer, but not enough to confess. I was too vengeful and satisfied. I didn't tell a soul for over 12 years until I was an adult. It was Easter and middle sister brought up the memory of Sugar Monster eating our Easter eggs. Only then did I admit to eating her egg. Everyone was horrified to discover the truth, including Sugar Monster. "You framed me, you absolute bitch." Yes, I did, and the 11-year-old Inside me still regrets nothing. A good laugh was had by all, so it was a happy ending. Sugar Monster still eats way too many sweets, but at least she leaves mine alone now. The way that would have eaten me alive. I can only imagine how hard it is to be parenting diverse ages and have like different consequences for different ages. And then your 11-year-old is like, well, I would get in so much trouble if I had done that. I'm really glad it sounds like everybody is kind of over it and can be lighthearted about it. Silly. That was a silly one. In just a couple of years, my relationship with my sister has crumbled beyond repair. I feel like there's a sister theme to a lot of these stories. Does Easter bring out tension in the sister-sister relationship? I'm so sorry for this doozy, but I've been needing to talk about the complete destruction of mine and my sister's relationship, as I still cannot believe what's happened. Me, 36 female, and my sister, B, 42 female, were never exactly close. She's 6 years older than me, and it always seemed like she was in a life stage ahead of me. I was a kid, she was a teen, then I was a teen, and she was an adult. But she used to go out of her way to do nice things for me. For some backstory, B is the oldest of my siblings. I have a brother and another sister, and I'm the youngest. But she would buy me birthday presents even as a kid or play special games with just the two of us. And I'm not sure if she ever did that with my other siblings. I sort of thought I was her favorite and that she was someone I could go to for help whenever I was in trouble. We got much closer after I was diagnosed with bipolar when I was 19 to 20, and she made an effort to be there for me when I really struggled with mental health issues for the majority of my 20s. Then things really started to change when I came out as queer at 28. At first, B was supportive of me. My whole family was. B had a friend who made custom Chinese bamboo hats and commissioned one for me that was painted rainbow as a gift. Now, when I came out to my family, I told them I was pan and demisexual. My family isn't really knowledgeable about queer stuff. They just know the basics: gay, lesbian, bi. So even though I tried to explain it a few times to them, they just didn't get it, but understood I was interested in both men and women. However, I think that the biggest thing about my queerness is that I'm demi, and I'm not really interested in pursuing sexual relationships, so I didn't date. So years would go by where I wasn't in a relationship with man or woman. After the first couple years, B started to make comments. B has always been a rather rude and crass person. She prides herself on fitting in with the guys. So she started to joke about how I only like men after all and didn't like women. We'd see each other for the first time in months, and one of the first things she'd say is, "Are you still doing the lesbian thing?" Which, of course, I had never once said that I was a lesbian. I always said I was pan, meaning I like any sex. But it was like she wouldn't retain the knowledge no matter how many times I explained it to her. That is so frustrating when you're close to someone who's seeing sexuality as a very black or white thing and struggles to imagine some of the nuance that could be there. It seems like you'd think B would notice she's making her sister uncomfortable with those kind of questions. Around this time, B's 10-year relationship was starting to fall apart, ending with a breakup, and I know she had a lot of personal turmoil in her life. This seemed to cause her to become very selfish. I began to notice that I only saw her at family get-togethers, and she never asked to hang out anymore. And the only time that she would text me was when she wanted something. I decided to test how long she would go without texting me, and it was 8 months. And the first thing she did was ask me to babysit her dog. I should also mention at this time I was really struggling with my own mental health, so maybe it's unfair that I assumed she was going through things and not reaching out to her, but I was trying to keep myself together. Yeah, I was thinking that might be a factor, like maybe B's just got too much going on, be taking that initiative, and maybe this is completely separate from her feelings about OP's queerness. Really hard to tell just from this. I would want to know more about the dynamics, like is OP ever the one taking initiative to hang out with her sister before this 8-month break, for example. I finally had enough last year on Mother's Day. My parents have a farm, so I had driven out to see my mom. B was already there and had been drinking, and the first thing she did was comment on my weight. I hadn't seen her in a long time, and during that time I had gained a lot of weight. You guys already know how I feel about this. I don't think it's ever really appropriate to be commenting on somebody's body. Like, sometimes it's uncomfortable to feel like other people are monitoring what your body looks like, even if it's complimentary, and it doesn't even really sound like B is being complimentary, so that just seems really inappropriate. I've always had issues with my weight that I'm sensitive about, and she knows that, but she still said something along the lines of getting it under control. Other people's bodies are not your business anyway, but you also have no idea if it's related to a medical issue or some kind of challenging life circumstance. Not long later, I can't even remember what we were talking about, and B shouts, "You're not a lesbian, you like d-. Just admit it, you like d-." Again, I have no idea where she thinks I said I was a lesbian, but I told her, no, I like any gender. And my mom even backed me up saying, yeah, she's bi. Bless her heart. That seems so uncomfortable to me. I mean, every family's different, but I think I would be unpleasantly surprised if I heard my kids talking to each other like that as adults. Why are you even so obsessed with who your sister wants to sleep with? And why do you want to hear her admit that she likes? I left not long after, but I felt sick to my stomach over B's comments. It didn't sit right with me. It made me cry and also feel extreme anger. So I sent her a text a couple days later and told her the topic of my sexuality was not up for discussion anymore. And if she continued to do so, I would cut her out of my life. That's a really strong limit to set, and I don't blame OP for that at all. I think the first part is especially good, like just making it clear that this discussion is over with and I don't need to hear from you anymore about my sexuality. Unless you really need to, it can just come off pretty antagonistic to bring up the consequences while you're setting the original limit, but I also understand if OP was like reaching the end of her rope with this. She replied with a long, bizarre message that didn't even touch on what I had said. It went something along the lines of, you don't know what I've been through. You can't tell me what to do. You're not a real adult. Mom and dad do everything for you. So I blocked her on everything, including her phone number. I only saw her at a few family events after that. The first time she tried to goad me into talking to her, but I ignored her. Like I've said before, when it comes to family relationships, it doesn't have to be black or white. You don't have to immediately go to no contact. If it were me, I probably would have tried harder before snipping her out of my life, given the whole history. Like I definitely feel like there should be a big wake up call where OP's like, the way that you're treating me is not okay. But honestly, when I hear an outcome like this, sometimes it's a sign that you already waited too long. If you had stood up for yourself and expressed yourself earlier in a way that allowed you to feel good in the relationship, you might have been able to stay in it. Somehow over the past few years, I've learned that over the last few months, B has fallen down the ultra right-wing hole, which includes all kinds of hateful ways of thinking that I can't even get into here. Anyway, this leads up to Easter supper where this all blows up. Oh great, I'm sure that'll really help with her openness to your sexuality. I was stuck in the living room with B and her other sister. B starts rambling off some transphobic rhetoric about a particular Olympian MLA fighter. I was not part of this conversation. I was on my phone, not wanting to engage with either sister, but that made me have to pipe up. That's been proven false. B replies with, it's all over X. X, Facebook, YouTube, these cannot be the places you're getting your news. And I say, X is nothing but conspiracy theories now. I don't remember what she said, but it was in a very condescending tone, as in, you are so incredibly stupid and I am never wrong, which she uses all the time. And I'll be honest, I lost it. I am not good with anger. It might be the bipolar disorder, but when I'm incredibly mad, my brain just stops working. I can't put my thoughts together like I can when I'm calm, so I just told her to shut up because she clearly doesn't even know what she's talking about. A lot of people really struggle with anger because it's so visceral and so often we're not really taught how to deal with it properly as kids, and it might have just constantly led to escalation, so we have to figure out how to deal with it in a healthy and appropriate manner as adults. I get up and storm out of the living room because I knew I was going to lose my shit, but she keeps yelling after me. I don't remember the whole argument, just that I kept yelling that she didn't know what she was talking about because again, anger brain would not let me piece together the information to explain why she was wrong. I do remember B saying dismissively, and here's the mental illness, and then using colorful language I will not repeat here, insinuating that I'm going to come out as trans next, as if the only reason I could be so angry or want to defend trans people is if I'm one myself. I also remember telling her that I wanted to punch her in the face, which I know was not good for me. This whole time, my parents were in the kitchen making supper and just yelled at us to stop it. B and my older sister were yelling at me that it's her opinion and she's allowed to have it and I'm not allowed to say she can't express it. By this point, I was in tears because I'm also an angry crier, so I just gave up. We had supper like nothing happened. After I left, my brother told me what happened. He hadn't been in the house for the fight. He's also been fighting with B for years, but that's a whole other story. But he said he supports me and doesn't think he's going to come to family events with his kids anymore. I texted my parents to apologize for fighting, but told them that I'm not going to family events anymore if B is attending. It honestly breaks my heart. I don't recognize my sister anymore. I have no idea how she turned into this hateful, hurtful person, but being around her is not good for me, and I know it pissed my parents off to say I'm not going to family stuff anymore, but why would I subject myself to that? Anyway, I have no idea how this can ever be repaired, and I don't think I want it to, not with the person she is now. Oh, that is such a tough one, because you know I'm pretty pro repair wherever possible, and I think it's possible but painful in a case like this. I feel like there's a lot of right-wing propaganda that is extremely predatory and uses like cult-like tactics. So I kind of feel like people outside of it have an obligation to try to reach their loved ones who have become hoodwinked by their algorithm. But at the same time, it can be so painful and frustrating, and maybe it does get to a point where you're causing yourself too much harm trying. There is a lot of benefit to being able to work through conflict, but it's not always possible. Make me your scapegoat. I'll ruin Easter. Years ago, I worked as the audio engineer for a large church. I loved my job, loved my boss, didn't get paid much, but life was good. After a couple of years of working there, the church hired a new worship pastor. He was a great musician, but a terrible manager. Before this position, he had literally never managed a single person in his life. He certainly wasn't hired for his leadership skills. Things were fine for a while. About a year later, the church did a complete overhaul of the audio system. The old sound system had been designed for piano, orchestra, and choir and hadn't been updated in 30 years. As an audiophile, I was over the moon. In a couple of weeks, we went from speakers older than I was and a system that had been patched together haphazardly to a system that would make most small concert venues jealous, and all tax-free. Little did I know, this would eventually lead to my termination. It's important to know that I had practically nothing to do with this upgrade. You would think you'd consult your audio engineer when upgrading your audio system. I tried to help, but was told to butt out. The install company did their work, and it was quickly time for the new system to go live. I had a grand total of 3 hours with live musicians before the first service, and every single one of my effects and EQ presets was useless. Myself and the lead tech from the install company had to redo everything on the fly. The first week was terrible. Volume spikes too high, balance was bad. I was frankly embarrassed. The next week was okay, but not great. By the third week, I finally had everything sorted. Volume never peaked above set decibel levels, and the music sounded great. Now, the problem with upgrading a 30-year-old system in a room where the same people hear it every week is that the perceived volume can feel much higher, even if the actual decibel level was the same. I tried to bring that up before the install, but what does an audio engineer know about things like that? Unsurprisingly, the small handful of rich old people who secretly ran the church with their checkbooks and had been complaining about the volume since before I was ever hired, redoubled their complaints. And the worship pastor made me the convenient scapegoat. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous, and just another reflection of the problems with power hierarchies in churches. I feel like there should not be random groups of old rich people making decisions at the church that aren't even related to Christianity. Never mind the other ways that churches with strict power hierarchies can be easily manipulated, but I could go on and on about that. Let's move on. A couple of months after the install, the worship pastor sat me down and gave me an action plan. 1. Lower decibel range and max dB. 2. Bring in the lead tech from the install team to fix compressors. Both myself and the install tech agreed that what the worship pastor wanted to do would actually make the problem worse, but we did make the other changes to EQ to help fix the problem. 3. All complaints were to be handled by the worship pastor. 4. Worship pastor would not lead worship 1 week, so he could be in the room and hear what the complainers heard. We had a follow-up meeting a month later. Worship pastor thanked me for making the changes, told me I did a great job, and complimented how great the music sounded when he listened in the room. Over the next year, I heard nothing else about volume complaints. I stuck to the updated dB levels, and as far as I knew, the problem had been fixed. A year later, I was called into a meeting with the worship pastor and executive pastor, head of HR. Executive pastor told me I was being let go for failing to adjust volume levels as directed by the worship pastor. I had not heard one word since the aforementioned meeting where I was told I had done everything that worship pastor had asked for. Apparently, my shock was evident because the executive pastor said this shouldn't come as a surprise to me because of the numerous conversations worship pastor has had with me about it. I told executive pastor that worship pastor had not said one word to me about volume levels since he told me I did everything he asked a year ago. He showed me a folder full of documentation of verbal warnings that worship pastor had documented. Not one of them had actually happened. The documentation of the above 2 meetings was there, with my signature acknowledging both. Everything else was an email from worship pastor to executive pastor about conversations that never happened. Until that moment, I thought that we had fixed the problem, and if worship pastor had ever told me that there was an issue, I would have fixed it just like I did the first time. Regardless, I was told that they would need me to work the next 5 weeks and that Easter would be my last day. I should have quit on the spot, but I needed the time to find a new job to support my family. I told them I would work until I found a new job. I would give them 2 weeks notice, but if that happened to be before Easter, I wasn't going to jeopardize my new job for the place that's firing me. I found a great job in an unrelated industry, gave 2.5 weeks notice, and the Sunday before Easter was my last day. For those who don't know, Easter Sunday is the Super Bowl for churches. It is the single biggest day of the year. While working out my notice, I tried to sit down with the worship leader multiple times to go over things they would need to know before I left. He couldn't be bothered to speak to me. I tried multiple times to sit down with the new tech director to share this vital information. My old boss and friend had quit quite a while before, but he also couldn't be bothered. I loved that church, but I was livid. You fire me for BS reasons, lying to HR about it the whole time. And as I'm trying to be the bigger person, you can't even find 30 minutes to talk with me about making a smooth transition. Fine. I'll ruin Easter. Over the years I had worked there, I had asked multiple times to upgrade digital plugins for the soundboard. That was always denied, so I spent my own money to purchase these plugins. Every single sound that was heard during a service ran through multiple plugins. EQ, compressors, reverb, etc. that I had purchased with my own money, and the license was attached to my own account. Every change and tweak I had made was saved to one of these plugins. All it took was me logging out of that account, and they were back to day one after the audio install, but without the plugins we had used to fix the problem, and they didn't even know it. This is one of the problems I wanted to discuss with them before my departure, but they couldn't find the time. I heard later that the sound on Easter was terrible, and many people who loved the new sound complained. Additionally, the pre- and post-service music was saved in my personal Spotify account, including the songs I had timed to go with the countdown timer. They also had multiple pieces of equipment out for repair at multiple different shops worth thousands of dollars that only I knew where they were. I tried to give them all this info, but they couldn't be bothered, so I ruined Easter. You know what? Good for OP, because that is a ridiculous way to treat one of your employees. It's insane that it sounds like this was OP's full-time job. I grew up going to a small evangelical church in elementary school, and I can't tell whether the small ones or the big ones are worse, because the small ones can have even more control and cover up dark secrets, but the big ones have so much money and power and weight to throw around that their leadership can also just get their way. Executive pastor, HR department, audio engineer, churches are just businesses. You'd think that a church would act more Christian than that, acting just like the Pharisees. OP said, "Every time I think of it, I'm always reminded of the old Gandhi quote, 'I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ.'" Ain't that the truth? And unfortunately, there are so many stories of misused power that pile up that it's pretty undeniable that it is a pattern. I thought my sister's love for my son outweighed the rage she has towards me, but I was wrong. This has been weighing on me for weeks, but I just feel so devastated and let down, I guess. At the same time, I know a big piece of this situation is my fault. My sister, early 40s, and I, late 30s, have in general had a pretty close relationship, if occasionally tumultuous. Things didn't really become intense until she was in her late teens, when she started dating her husband. He's always been very volatile. At the worst, he's abusive. At the least, he's neglectful toward her. Because of this, as I became an adult, my sister started to rely on me more and more for emotional and financial support. I literally gave her thousands of dollars in my 20s to help her pay rent and activities because her husband wouldn't support her. She, for one reason or another, could not work, so she relied on me for financial support. Oh my gosh, I've talked about this before, but I've had multiple clients who just could not get ahead because any money they made, their siblings would be there with their palms open. And it is such a tricky line to walk because of course you want your family to all be okay. You want to support family members if they really need it and you have it, but it just seems even easier for someone like a sibling to take that for granted. I finally put my foot down about 7 years ago and stopped paying for things. The funny thing is, it was not because I was tired of how she treated me, but rather how she treated other people. She did not handle me setting boundaries well at first. She initiated no contact, but I continued it for months. Once we reconciled, at the insistence of our mom, I ended up still emotionally supporting her for a long time, which brings us to the current situation. She finally decided that she wanted to divorce her husband. Initially, she claimed it mostly had to do with her husband's behavior. but then decided it was 100% driven by kids versus no kids. She wanted a family, he didn't. Understandable, and whatever reason she decided to focus on, I supported her. She would call me multiple times a day for months, talking through her thoughts, through the situation. Every time I would pick up the phone and talk to her or text her, taking time away from my job and my own family, because I didn't want her to be or feel alone. This has gone on for months. She borrowed $500 from our parents to file for divorce, but was too scared to serve him, so that was an ordeal. When she finally told him, still not technically served, he instantly became nicer and expressed regrets, which made her feel guilty, which made her call me more. My husband and I started building a house almost a year ago and offered her a room. It was in case she needed somewhere to get back on her feet or needed a fresh start. Instead, she decided she would rather try to lay claim to a house owned by my parents that she and her husband had driven to disrepair. My parents have several times indicated a desire to sell the house for their retirement, but she cries and begs, so they put it off. At this point, she has made it clear that she is waiting for them to die so she can take ownership. So where I messed up. At the beginning of April, an extended family member of ours reached out to me and asked about her, stating that she seemed so sad lately. This particular family member has lived as a roommate with my sister, her husband, and myself for several years and had witnessed her husband berating her, punching walls, etc. So I guess some part of me felt it was okay to mention that they were likely getting a divorce. Well, about 2 weeks later, this family member calls up our younger sibling to catch up, and the family member mentions that they heard about the divorce. My younger sibling, thinking nothing of it, confirms that she filed for divorce, but that any other info will need to come from our sister. A few days later, at Easter, my younger sibling casually mentions the conversation with the family member to our sister. Again, not really thinking anything was wrong. Oh, it was very wrong. She yelled at younger sibling, then tried to storm out of the house. I was sitting in the living room, trying to calm down my toddler son who had just finished having a tantrum, so I had no idea what had just transpired. It was like a bad movie. She came storming in, and I naturally asked what was wrong. This, understandably, caused her to go into a tirade about how I had no right to share her personal information, and then it devolved into just screaming and cursing at me with pure rage. This all happened in front of my husband, son, and extended family. After a minute, she basically told everyone to leave her alone and not call her, packed up and left in a ruckus with her car, scaring my aunt and her friend who had just shown up. It was quite dramatic. Ooh, that is awful, especially in front of the toddler. I can understand the sister might be being upset if she wasn't ready to talk about the divorce, but that's not how you have to handle it when you're angry. She proceeded to block me on her phone and on messaging apps. Now, where things get messy is that she has bonded with my son. They truly love each other, and I am sad for both of them about this loss, which is my fault. Well, OP may have made a mistake or overstepped some lines, but the entire rift can't be OP's fault because the sister didn't have to take it to that extreme and block OP on everything. His birthday is coming up, and I had always intended to invite her because I thought she would want to celebrate him regardless of how angry she is at me. I mentioned this to my husband, whose immediate response was absolutely not. He took huge issue with her outburst, especially since she specifically was screaming at me with a look of pure rage while I was holding our son. He felt that she should have asked me to step away before losing it, which I do agree with. Yeah, that totally makes sense that your husband might not be comfortable with your kid around this person for a little bit, and he should definitely have a say as well. It's like going back to that idea that people have to deal with the consequences of their own actions. We decided to compromise and write a letter to my sister, since I'm still blocked, mentioning the party but also requiring that we at least have a conversation before the party to minimize the risk of an argument or drama. That sounds like a really good idea and a good compromise that you guys came to. When writing the letter, I chose to share all my feelings, my regret for the situation and sadness that she is missing out on time with her nephew before we move. I also, maybe foolishly, pointed out a lot of the major events that had taken place that I had just been expected to move past. When I refused to take a college course pretending to be her so she could graduate, and her reaction was to threaten to smash all the windows on my car. When I went to college out of state, my dad happened to have a small mental break from unrelated financial stress. She called me every day to tell me it was my fault for leaving and that if he died, it was also my fault. She found out about my sexual preferences while I was away at school. She decided to share that info with my mom. My mom mocked me and brought it up to embarrass and criticize me more than once. When I first refused to continue paying for everything, she called our parents and told them they better let me move back in with them or else she was going to kill me. Then she picked up my living dog and told me to say goodbye because she was staying and I would never see her again. When I went to the common area to get my deceased dog's ashes, her husband stopped me and threatened to beat the shit out of me if I took them. Out of fear for my life, I left both behind. I didn't speak to her again for months before my mom begged us to reconcile. I'm sorry, are you saying she killed your dog? Recently, she has told me and the rest of the family multiple times that when our parents pass, she is entitled to the house she rents from them. Our younger sibling gets my parents' current house, and I should get nothing because my husband and I bought our own house, literally dictating what our inheritance should be. I have made it clear that it's up to my parents what they want to do, not her. Okay. OP has every right to have these conversations with the sister, but it doesn't really fit into a letter where you're trying to reconcile before your toddler's son's birthday. It sounds like everything about the divorce was just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more hidden resentment to work through. Maybe it's not appropriate for her to come to your son's birthday, but if you did want her to and that was the intention of the letter, I don't think it really makes sense to be bringing up every single bad and toxic thing she's done, because you're not going to resolve all of that in time. These aren't even the extent of things, but I don't want to make this longer than it already is. Before Easter happened, my husband was so curious about why I would accommodate/try so hard not to trigger her. Now that he has seen how angry she can get, he understands a bit more. Anyway, I sent the letter 2 weeks ago. I never received any sort of response. The birthday party is happening very soon, and I guess she won't be there. That makes me sad, but I also know I am at fault. I'm not gonna lie, that kind of feels like OP digging for reassurance that they aren't at fault, because there's no way you could type all of this up and have this ongoing list of all the times your sister's wronged you and actually think the estrangement is your fault. If the sister has really done all of these hurtful things over the years, it doesn't sound like OP trying so hard to repair the relationship is even appropriate. If those are the dynamics and you're just trying to appease her, then you're really not setting a good example for your son. The reason why she treats you like this is because you have not respected yourself. I would not reach out or even concern myself with anything. Even when people come to you with stories, show disinterest. The less you know, the better you sleep. Finally, protect your son from this behavior. Keep the distance for your son. Exactly. Even if on the surface they seem to really connect and have a good relationship, you have to think deeper about the impact that this person is going to have on your growing child. Maybe these kind of outbursts are extremely rare, and maybe there's ways to protect yourself and your family from them, but you don't want to show him you bending over backwards and walking on eggshells to keep someone in your life that will scream at you in front of your son. OP, hear this. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for your son. Your son does not deserve to be in the crossfire of this. Do not beg her to come back. Grow a spine, if not for yourself, for your son. I'm not saying this to be mean. Everybody around me knows I'm a doormat and a people pleaser. I took verbal and physical abuse from my mom. My partner defended me from her tirade several times, but it was when my son, who was 4 at the time, ran and launched himself into my mom's lap and headbutted her while he cried, "Do not make mommy cry." I realized I had made my son watch all the times I was abused and taking it. I decided I do not want to make my son think it's normal to abuse your loved ones, or that to be abused by your loved ones is normal. While I do keep switching between no contact and very low contact with my mom, it is definitely better for not just me, but for little man too, to not be in contact with her. OP said, "I appreciate you sharing your experience. I don't want my son to see me treated like this." It's so true. Like, our kids are much more likely to repeat what they see us doing than to listen to what we say, and relationship dynamics that kids witness get reenacted. Honestly, your sister sucks. She and the husband deserve each other. Your son is young and will not remember her in a bit without seeing her. She only cares about herself. If I were you, I would toss the letter and stay no contact for good. OP is in an abusive relationship with her sister and doesn't want to see it. Her responses are textbook from the abused perspective. Always making excuses for the abuser's behavior, going back for more when the abuser love bombs her, taking the blame for their deplorable actions, apologizing and excessively begging to get abusers' approval/forgiveness. Your sister is both an abuse victim and a narcissistic abuser herself. It may be hard to reconcile, but both can be true. OP, your husband is right. You need to distance yourself from your sister. And most importantly, you need therapy. This relationship is not healthy. Your son is young. He will be okay with no contact from your sister. Your priority should be modeling healthy relationships so your son can learn how to be a decent human. Imagine if he was older and more aware, what that blow up with your sister would have done to him. He would have been terrified. He would have been traumatized. Stop exposing your child to narcissistic, abusive people, even if those people are family. This may be overdramatic, but you need to tell your parents what your sister is planning regarding their property. She sounds borderline sociopathic or psychopathic. And sociopaths should never be trusted. She's making plans for when they die and might want to speed their passing along. Like we've said before, diagnostic terms like narcissist and sociopath just spill out of people's keyboards on Reddit very easily. Not every toxic behavior is those things, and I don't even think we have enough information to point us in that direction here. This commenter could be right, but it feels a little extreme. OP says, the thing is, I do see it, at least to a degree. When she would complain or vent or cry about what was going on with how her husband treated her, I was tempted often to point out how she treated me was not much different. The issue has been that I am easy to guilt. We come from a family first / family is everything culture, and we've had a lot of deaths in the past few years, so it felt wrong to cut her out of my life. However, writing it all out, I realize how bad it has gotten and that my son should not be around someone so volatile. I think seeing these comments has helped to cement that for me. So why aren't you putting your family first by protecting your son? Why is it always the voiceless that gets sacrificed first for family? You need to strengthen that spine of yours and stop being manipulated by guilt. At the very least, for the sake of your son. There is always a little bit of irony in posts like this. You clearly want your sister to finally stand up for herself and cut her husband off because he is toxic and treats her badly. Yet no matter how many times she or anyone else tries to remove him from her life, she always ends up running back and accepting the same behavior. The irony is that you can replace her and her husband with you and her, and the summary is still 100% accurate. I get that you love her. I also understand it can be hard to walk away from a relationship, even when you know it's bad for you. However, sometimes you simply have to walk away because the other person will probably never change. If you want her to stop treating you badly, then you have to cut her off. No amount of meddling in her relationship or financial or emotional support will cause her to change who she is. Only she can do that. And to be honest, as long as you keep enabling her by coming back, she will never change. I'm still so confused about whether or not this sister killed her dog. I feel like nobody in the comments was addressing that, but she said that her sister picked up her living dog and told her to say goodbye and that she would never see her again, and then OP went to collect her deceased dog's ashes. Like, none of the things in that list that the sister's done seem very good, but that feels like a detail that could really push it one way or another if she killed her sister's dog. Thank you so much for watching today, and if you celebrate, happy Easter. Let me know your thoughts. I love to hear from you. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next one.